that representing humanity resulted in Picard and friends winning. Oh, did I just say Picard and friends? I'm sorry. But, where the individual failed, the majority made up for that. And it goes to show you, when we work together, that's when we build something. That's when when one of us falls, we pick that person up, or we pick ourselves up, and bring that. Yeah, well, this is a specific circumstance, but you get the idea of what I'm saying, I guess. So Picard brings this up. He says, we exactly. I won the wager. We won the wager. So you can't bother us anymore, Q. And Q gets upset and realizes, oh crud, I've lost. Potentially after Riker, Q would have moved on to the rest of the crew and given them, fulfilled the promises he gave them, and Q would be their master, right?
It's all over, Q. You have no further business here.
Human, you have just destroyed yourself.
Pay off your wager!
I recall no wager!
I'm sure your fellow Q remember that you agreed never to trouble our species again, just as they're aware that you failed to tempt a human to join you.
No, if I could just do one more thing.
Q, I strongly suspect it's some explaining you have to do now.
Q is very frustrated, and he says, no, he screams to the heavens, talking to the Q that are about to make him disappear, and says, no, just let me do one more thing, let me just meddle around with one more thing. And I can't imagine what that would have been, but, whatever comes out of Q's mouth for him to try and get out of that one. Q was in a tight spot, so then his superiors, I guess, just make him vanish, and Q is gone, and humanity has outwitted the demon. So, very good. Awesome.
Extraordinary.
So after Q disappears, the crew is back, resuming the normal time. Normal time resumes, and their position.
Captain, we are showing that same hole in time again. Our instruments say we just now beamed back from our rescue mission.
And Data has something to say. He says,
Sir, how is it that the Q can handle time and space so well, and us so badly?
how is it that the Q can handle time and space so well, and us so badly? And I think that's such an interesting line there, and an even more interesting line is how Picard responds with,
Perhaps someday we will discover that space and time are simpler than the human equation. No coordinates laid in, number one.
Yes, sir. You have my coordinates, LaForge.
Aye, sir. On the board.
Engage.
perhaps someday we'll discover that space and time are simpler. Well, for crying out loud, I gotta say it like Picard would. Perhaps someday we'll discover that space and time are simpler than the human equation. And so they all sort of forgive Riker, and it's smooth sailing from there, and the Enterprise sails off into the sunset, as they say. And so they've all sort of, Riker doesn't really apologize. It's almost as if he just woke up, like somebody. And here's what I want to say, folks, is how much of that was really Riker? What if Q influenced Riker a little bit, controlled his thought processes a little bit? But that would completely defeat the purpose of what Q was trying to do. So when I first watched this episode, me commenting just only a few minutes ago, decades of minutes ago, in fact, sets of 10 minutes, never mind, tangents. But anyway, I was commenting about how I've seen this episode 4 times this year, and the first time I watched it, which was just, the casual viewing experience, I was thinking that it was not necessarily overwritten, but overacted on Jonathan Frakes' part. But, I disagree with that now, simply because I've become so familiar with the episode now. And I think that it was a necessary thing that happened, and I think they can get away with that in Season 1. If it was honestly Riker that was, becoming sucked up in all of that, with what the Q was doing to him, they got away with it in Season 1, and I think it worked, in retrospect. But once Riker got the beard, they could not do this story, in my opinion. So oh man, this was just a phenomenal episode. It was a great episode. You've got the line, it's the vicious animal things and the Picard quoting Shakespeare episode. That's what this is, and it was phenomenal. I really, really love it. And wow, I've just lived in this episode for so long now, and as far as any rating system that I may have, I really don't want to do a rating system. Like a 5 out of 5 stars thing, because I'm just not going to do that. And here's why. Here's why I'm not going to have a rating system of some kind. You've heard my thoughts on what I think of the episodes, and I'd just rather give you specifics and conclude it with a word that gives you a vibe for how I feel about this. Like last time I might have said this was awesome, and this time I'm saying it is awesome as well. But does that mean one episode is better than the other? Well, of course it means that, but how do you define what makes an episode good or great? For instance, take this episode, which was great, and compare it to one of The Inner Light, right? And if this is a 5-star, because I enjoyed it that much and thought it was that great, and I'm just being generous, then I would want to take The Inner Light and make that like a 10-star, right? Well, no, that would make this like half of what The Inner Light means. But you see my point, though, is you have to, when you're doing rating systems, you have to manage, like City on the Edge of Forever is like a 10, and this little kind of episode that's just sort of in the mix, what am I going to give that? It's, even though I really liked it and I thought it was brilliant, and it's just sort of that challenge. So I'm just saying screw that, and yeah, no rating system. If I love an episode, I love an episode, and indeed I loved this episode, and I thought it was awesome, just great episode. I think it needs to be recognized a little bit more for what it is. I really do. Some great stuff going on, and I think that pretty much wraps that up. So anyway, gee whiz, I'm looking at how much I've been recording here, and it's a little scary how long this thing might turn out to be. But anyway, I think I'm going to get on to some emails and some tweets and all that sort of thing as we close out the show here today. That after episode 3, I was like, what?
Your undivided attention is required.
Well, gee, Mary, I'm glad you waited to interrupt me after I finished exploring the episode.
It isn't a matter of waiting.
Okay. Wait, you don't have anything new on our reclusive friends, do you? What?
That was Pig Latin, was it not?
No, I know what you said. Nice job, by the way. But they're on the bridge?
They finally crawled out from the woodwork, it would seem.
Beam me over there right now.
Greetings, Captain Kaczynski. I am Supreme Guider of the Glubins. I, Glubius the 16th, heir to the throne of the Glubius Glubed Glack of the Glee clan of Gloopdus.
And I am Glubin, commander of our vessel, the Glugendagenra.
We and our peoples have been watching your escapades aboard this space vessel with much favor, but our latest revelation has forced us into making contact with you. We seek what you obtained, and we must have it.
We will not scamper away from any measures necessary to fulfill our survival.
Oh my.
To be continued next week, same time, same channel. Be there.
Well, don't make promises I can't keep.